Hello, everybody. Good evening. How are we doing? It is Thursday night, and we're back here for another Content and Cocktails. This is the second time we're back in doing doing this whole live business again. So my name's Tom Stanhope. If we've not met before, I help people with podcast production. So Podforge is our podcast production agency, and we help people build, launch and grow podcasts. But Content and Cocktails has been going for a very long time. So Content and Cocktails was started pre-pandemic, so end of 2019. And we took a sort of an 18-month hiatus just because I don't know, I'd done it for a very long time, and I've kind of decided to step back into it now, which is really exciting. So I am back in the whole go live mode, and I'm really enjoying it. So as you can see, I'm in my slightly different location. I'm in my sort of go live shed, effectively, which I quite like. We're sort of turning the garage space at home into a sort of a miniature studio, and this is where I'll be coming from. It is absolutely perishingly cold in here today, so how long I'll last, I do not know, but we'll see. Content and Cocktails this week is brought to you by an alcohol-free cocktail. So I've gone for actually very nice. So this is the martini, sort of the alcohol-free martini rosso, which you can just have with a bit of tonic water, or in fact you can have it neat. It's quite nice. So I'm going for that. I didn't fancy anything stronger tonight, so I thought I would go for an alcohol-free option, and it is very nice indeed. So normally what we do is we have this little book. So this is a book called 100 Cocktails. It was my grandfather's, and I'm just gonna hang on. Let's just make sure all this is sharing correctly to where it needs to be shared to. Bear with me a second. There we go. That's good. I'm keeping an eye on the comments, because you should be able to. I should be able to get my comments coming through from here and all sorts of places, but we'll see. We'll see. Anyway, if you are here, do say hello. Come and have a chat. I'm really just sort of getting back into the swing of it, so I feel a little bit rusty with all of this. So you'll have to forgive me if it takes me a little bit of time to sort of get back into the swing of things. But it's lovely to be doing it. I always enjoyed the process of kind of going live and chatting with people this way, because it is long form. Now, one of my other hats that I've been wearing quite a lot is to do with AI, and one of the things that I think is happening with AI that is sort of knocking on to the world of content creation, is that you're seeing a lot of I think you're going to start seeing a much greater erosion of trust in kind of the content production world, in terms of short form video content particularly. And it is going to be content like podcasts, long form discussions that are very difficult to sort of fake, as it were, that are going to be that we're going to be able to sort of really establish our sort of voices, our unique voices. And so what I wanted to do this evening was just talk a little bit about the act of launching a podcast. You know, what does it take to take your podcast from nothing to launch? And that's kind of that's an exciting thing to do. It's a fun thing to do. It's a lot of work, but what you get at the end of it is a really brilliant engine for your whole business, a brilliant content engine for your whole business. Because one of the reasons why we sort of made this shift from a guest from straight up video production, straight up video content, which is what I was involved in for, since the early 2000s. Has been, video has been part of my life always. And my approach to content creation with podcasts is informed by that. So when we take on new podcasters at Podforge, so incidentally, the company, the business, the agency is called Podforge, podforge.co.uk. You can see the name just there. We take the view that you should be taking a video-led or a video-first approach to your podcast. Podcasts, are often seen as being kind of audio. They're an audio format, but actually, because of the ubiquity and the reach and the power of video, I think it's a crying shame if you don't take an approach where you are using video as a really important part of that process. So you need a plan to take yourself out of, if you're somebody for whom video is not necessarily your main love, you need a plan to help yourself get okay in front of the camera. But actually, the beautiful thing about podcasts is that most people end up doing discussion formats, which are great because all you're doing is having a conversation. All you're doing is having a chat. And everyone, we all love to have a chat. Find the right people to talk to, and it will never feel difficult. So if we start off with the idea that you may be one of those people who has had the idea of doing a podcast rattling around their head forever and a day. And that is not uncommon. You will find that a lot of the people you'll speak to, when you say, "Oh, have you ever thought about doing a podcast?" They'll go, "Yeah, absolutely. I've thought about doing a podcast, but it's always felt like a very big mountain to climb." Or, "I started, but we didn't get very far." Or, "Yeah, I'd love to, but I just don't know where to begin." There's a lot of oh buts that sort of happen, and that's completely understandable because there are a lot of things you have to do to kind of take your idea for a podcast and turn it into something which is living and breathing and really something that is out there, that is consistent, that people are engaged with, that people actually want, that is reaching those people. But also the other thing that people can often feel quite despondent about with podcasting is that actually it's a long game, and there's no way around that. Unless you are somebody who has a huge audience, a huge pre-existing reach, which I know some of you do, absolutely, or you are a celeb with kind of ways to leverage your existing audience, then you have to view it as really quite an extreme form of content marketing. It's actually, it's going to take time. The mad thing is, so I put a post out on LinkedIn the other day, and I think it's only 44% of podcasts get past the first 3 episodes. And that on its own tells a very particular story. So there are 3.2 million active podcasts. 3.2 million. There are 3.2 million podcasts out there which are kind of which are relatively recent. Of those 3.2 million, 44% don't get past. Never got past the first 3 episodes. So anyone who gets to episode 4 is already ahead of the game. You're in an increasingly rarefied pack. The amount of people that get past 20 episodes, so it goes from 44% of people never get past 3 episodes to 99% of people who never get past episode 20. That is crazy. 20 weeks of content. So if you're doing a weekly podcast, sustaining something for 20 weeks sounds pretty good. I mean, that's almost, it's almost sort of, it's a decent chunk of a year. Getting past 20 episodes puts you in a pretty rarefied camp. Now, some of our podcasters have gone past the 100 episode mark. We've got people who are rapidly approaching that. And when you get to the 100 episode mark, you are in a very kind of a very sort of rarefied atmosphere. A lot of most people who are running podcasts don't get that far, and it is one of those things where having the tenacity, the stick-to-itness, the capacity to keep going when you don't necessarily feel like you have got the results you wanted instantly, because a lot of us want instant results. We want those instant results. We want that audience to come flooding to us, but podcasts are a long burn. But the beauty of them is that once you get going with them, once you build that content, people will find you. And if they are the right people, and if you've structured your podcast in the right way, you should really only be being found and sort of engaged with by your sort of ideal clients. You will have people who listen, not just to that week's episode, but go through and plow through the lot of them. And that is where the real power comes. It is a trust building tool. It is an expertise building tool. It becomes a content engine, because every episode you do, say you've done a series of 20-minute, 30-minute recordings of interviews or pieces to camera like this, you then have a bank of video and images that can be repurposed and turned into reels and TikToks and God knows what else. You have a suite of content that comes out of every episode, which is just incredible. Blogs, emails, the lot, all sorts. And when you approach your podcast production with that attitude of long-term game, you'll often see people doing kind of a sort of big launch, getting onto the top of lists, top podcast. That's all well and good. And if you've got a big audience, yeah, you can leverage that, sure. But for me, I think a much better, much more sustainable way to do it is to go in and build something with the understanding and the knowledge that this is going to be something that grows slowly, grows organically, grows sustainably over time. You see the numbers always going up. I want to see upward trends over time, and every single podcaster that we work with sees their numbers go up over time. The more you stick at it, the more you do it, the more you talk about it, the more those numbers go up. And what you do is you are carving out a niche for yourself with your podcast. And that niche works in a number of different ways. One, you're there talking about stuff that you know about, being visible, being visibly present, being visibly in service of your audience. And two, if you're doing something interview based, you get to spend time with your ideal clients, I guess, which is really exciting. So one of the very first Podforge podcaster, Liz Allen, who has a podcast called Electric Evolution, has used her podcast to carve out a really powerful niche in the electric vehicle world. She's now an information broker in that space, and that's amazing. And that would not have happened without the podcast, because she uses the podcast not only to have interesting conversations, but to make connections with really important people in that industry. So you're more likely to be able to spend an hour chatting to the CEO of some particular company if you invite them onto your podcast than you are if you randomly pick up the phone and have a cold call with them. And in doing that conversation, you are able to build a relationship, show your knowledge and expertise, give something to them, and it's powerful stuff. So when you're thinking about your podcast, think about it as not a quick win, but something that will take time. It's something which will grow over time, with nurture, with dedication, with kind of your attention and just care. Now, that's where we come in. You know, Podforge is the partner that helps people do that. You can do it yourself, and actually, I'm a keen advocate of people getting going. Doing it yourself is great. The beautiful thing about bringing somebody else in is that with us in your corner, all you have to do is basically, we take you up to launch, we help you get set up, we help you set up the right systems for recording. We're very often talking about virtual recording. So, you know, we're talking about using, you know, getting your camera set up right, using a good online recording studio setup, making sure it's all looking nice, and then, you know, helping you build out a robust guest management system. So all of these things are kind of part of the deal, but really what happens after that is all you do is you do your recordings and then upload them to the central sort of Dropbox space, and then we take care of the rest. You know, we're editing the audio and the video episodes, we're uploading it, we're scheduling it, we're doing all the optimization, we're getting it onto Apple, we're getting it onto Spotify and all the other platforms it needs to be, alongside creating short form content for that. And really it's all about making that podcasting process as easy and as seamless as it can possibly be. So if you are somebody who has a podcast idea knocking around in your head, drop me a note and let's have a conversation about what that might be, because I would love to help you on that journey. We have an offer at the moment. So Podforge quietly opened its doors a year ago. And the plan over that year was always to just keep the initial intake very small. So we just had 6 people on the books and run it for a year, make sure all the systems are working, get some results, get some growth data for those podcasts, and just then start to make sure all the things that need to be robust are robust, and then we open up properly. So we are now at the stage where we have been running. Well, actually, with Liz, we've been going for 2 years, really, because for the first year we did everything with Liz, just to sort of, we did the service before realizing we had a service to offer, and then we turned it into Podforge. So I'm very excited to be able to sort of say that the doors are now properly open with Podforge, and that we're still going to have the initial offer price of $450 a month, which is a steal for everything, for what you get. It's a steal whichever way, because other people's plenty of other organizations offer a lot less for a lot more. And I think it's really important, because we are very often working with solo entrepreneurs. It's important that we keep it as lean a service as possible, as effective a service as possible. So we're offering the most we can for the keenest offer. Of course we're making on it. Of course we are. We wouldn't be very sensible to be running a business that wasn't. But we are. We wanted to do this in a way that was always affordable. So $450 a month for the podcast, and that includes everything. Plus, and this is the exciting part. I mean, it's all very exciting. I love it all. If you come in and join in this next launch cohort, we've got the 5 spots at this kind of launch price. You are then grandfathered into any additional services that are added on So you will always be part of that test cohort. If you are in that first cohort, so the first year and this next subsequent intake, you will always get added into any other service offerings that we are bringing in. So things like the sort of the promotional side of things. So my wife, who's also my business partner, she's been in comms and PR all of her professional life, as well as production. And so she's, next year she's coming out of her sort of corporate sector work and is going to be bringing all of her PR knowledge and expertise to Podforge. So we are going to be able to offer a sort of a PR offering within all of this. Now, this is really interesting. And so you'll get all of this information sort of bundled in with it all. So there's lots of exciting stuff happening. So starting your podcast, I would say start off first of all getting really intentional. Understand that you are going to want to be doing it as a video-driven podcast and spinning all the other content, the audio, the shorts, all the other content out of that video. Secondly, understand that it is a long game, but it is one that is worth doing. And then finally, understand that it is not just about the numbers, it is also about positioning and authority building. And I think we will leave it there for today. Content and Cocktails next week, same time, 7 o'clock Thursday. I will see you. If you've got any questions at all about podcasting, hit me up, DM me, pop a comment below, whatever, whatever tickles your fancy. And I will do my best to answer those questions. So thank you for being here with me. If you're watching this on replay, everything still stands. I will see you tomorrow. So have a good evening. Stay safe. Bye-bye.